Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Shem Shai, Bahashem Rakah Kadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of all Israel on earth today. Salutations to all my Akim, the fellow laborers who are out there doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, to the confusion of face Akim that are joined unto our ranks. And to the hopeful elect and the Akwathium that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is a video called Stolen Land, Really? To the Victor Goes the Spoils. And this is a guy that I perceive to be an Edomite, okay? From the nation of Edom. There's no chance that he could be confusion of face because, yes, there are Israelites that are actually going to look like this guy, okay? There definitely are Israelites that are going to look like this this guy. All right, like it or not, but this guy is an Edomite. All right, for sure. His mannerisms, his spirit, his pride, everything about him, and Esau loves to give justification for their behavior, and they don't like it when people call them on that stuff because basically he's trying to do a comparison that all people have been slave masters and etc. Even there were white slaves and all that sort of thing. Yeah, we know, but they deny that history during the Dark Ages. They even lie about that. Okay, but no people have ever done when they ruled over people as the so-called white man has. Okay, no one has completely taken the people's heritages away, and then and fabricated and created new races and create and change the names and names of lands and names of people and give them new characterizations, give them new titles to fit their narrative. Okay, because you have to remember, it wasn't until 1681 that the first time white appeared anywhere in history as a labeling of a race. So they created whiteness. They created the white race in 1681, and you can go and check the research of Theodore Allen, Dr. Jacqueline Batalore, and Dr. D'Angelo. Okay, all right. You can go check their research on that. All right, it was written into law in 1681. So prior to that, there was no such thing as white people. All right. So this is a lack of real history, which gives this guy his mindset. And the history of the world is written in the Bible. All right, it's written in the Bible. Okay, because in the book of Daniel, it tells you Daniel had a vision of 4 kingdoms, man. Let's find that real quick. He had a vision of 4 kingdoms, and the main kingdoms on the planet Earth, all right, that he saw in his vision was the Babylonian, the Persian Medes, Greece, and then Rome. All right, and the Romans came out of the Greeks, and the Greeks were Edomites that took over Japhet's land, that conquered Japhet, conquered the Persian Medes and took them down. All right, because the Persian Medes were in control of Europe. All right, a dark race of people, Japhetic people, and the Greeks took them down and stepped into their shoes and started calling themselves Greece. And then out of Greece came Rome, and out of Rome came Britain and America. All right, because the Bible prophesies that the Edomites would be in rulership at the end of the world. So it had nothing to do with their power. It had to do with that it was prophecy, and the Lord's word cannot come back void, man. All right, so this is Daniel 12 and 9, and it reads, and he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed and sealed to the time of the end. So during the time that Christianity was brought forth, the book had already been sealed. And that's why now this truth and understanding in the Bible that's coming out, when you research the meaning of words in history, the things that they teach in the churches don't match up. Just as the things that come out of his mouth don't match up with real history. What he's doing is regurgitating the false history that you learn here in America in the fool system. All right, so let's let him speak.
They deserved, and and then it was all
Let's go right about there.
They're just getting their comeuppance and they're getting what they deserved, and and then it was
a little bit more, Salakia.
It was stolen land, and that they're just getting their comeuppance and they're getting what they deserved, and and then it was all the white devils and the horrible white people that are conquering everything. Okay, and then of course then I got to hear about, well, look at the United States. You horrible white people stole the land from the Indians or the Native Americans. I'm sorry, want to do it the right way. So the indigenous Indians that lived here, we stole the land from them and all this type of stuff. So let's talk about that for a second. And I love how it's politically correct now to vilify white people. That's okay. You can say anything negative you want about white people, and that's okay, and it's justified. But heaven forbid we say anything white people against anybody else. So let's talk about stolen land, or what if it's stolen land or not. Throughout the history of the world, conquerors have conquered land. The Ottoman Empire, you had Rome, obviously.
One of the majors.
You had the Mongols. You had China. China was united under one warlord. It was 5 different sections of China.
Not a major, though.
And he conquered everybody and took over the whole country. Okay, he unified China. All right. You look at what even here in America and what the native Indians did here. They killed each other all the time. There was always wars going on. Okay, so you always had something.
Infighting has nothing to do with what you did to them. That's, they, like I said, justification. They try to make justifications for the wicked crimes that they committed. There is no justification for your crimes and your wickedness. None. All right? Well, an internal matter with the family has nothing to do with outsiders coming in and then taking their heritage from them and calling them by a name that you chose.
Going on throughout the entire history, and let's even go back over to Africa for a second. And the great Zulu warrior there, I mean, he conquered and killed a whole ton of his own people. Okay,
he's talking about Shaka Zulu. All right, and often Shaka Zulu was fighting with Israelites too. You gotta remember there were 2 races of dark races in Africa, and that's something that he either doesn't know or he's not acknowledging. All right, which he's gonna prove that in a moment.
This is something that has gone on throughout the history of mankind. It's not white people. I love it when people just want to blame white people. White people are the horrible people.
And Europe did colonize most of the world.
And Europe did colonize most of the world because
we were the only ones, though.
What's that?
We weren't the only ones.
No, there was other people in different time frames that did the same exact thing. Okay.
Just Europe did the most of it.
I mean, if you go back and you want to look at the Persian Empire, and
Japhetic people.
Anybody's watched the movie The 300,
and they ruled Europe.
Persians came in.
So that movie's a good example because it's showing you that that these brown-skinned people were the rulers in Europe, and eventually the Grecian Empire was taken down by Alexander. And I'm going to read that history to you. And that's when the so-called white man, who he's referred to today, the Edomites, came into power through Alexander the Macedonian, which their history is documented in the Bible. And you can find the same history that I'm going to read in secular history books.
Took over most of the known world at that time. They conquered a lot of area, okay? And Persians weren't white guys, just so you know.
See?
It is so ridiculous to blame everything on white people. Now, to the victor goes the spoils. That's the history of the world. That's just the way it's always been. It's the way it's always will be, okay? So you're going to have people throughout the history of the world have taken over areas, and they keep it. It's theirs. They've conquered it. They've won. If you didn't like the fact that your area or your people didn't win or whatever, maybe they should have fought harder. Maybe they should.
And see, you hear that? Cognitive dissonance. First of all, when they came over here to the natives didn't know they were at war. They didn't come and declare war. They came and declared peace and friendship. Let's look at the history of Thanksgiving. The poison of all those Gadites, what they really are. The holy tribe of Gad, Israelites. All right? How you poisoned them and then slaughtered them at Thanksgiving. And then gave thanks for the new land. All right? So he's leaving out a lot of stuff. It wasn't like they just came over here and started killing. Columbus didn't land and just pull out his muskets and his swords. He befriended and gained the trust of the people and made the people feel that he wasn't a threat. And that's fact. Then they attacked.
have fought better. And I'm kind of being sarcastic in that. But the thing is,
Very sarcastic.
throughout the history of mankind, every group, every color of people have been conquerors. Look at what Japan did. And they did through the Philippines, through China. You know what I mean? They brutalized those people in that time period. So, you know, to single out white people as these horrible, terrible, rotten people that did all these horrible things. You know what? Did we do horrible things as white people? Oh, I just swallowed a bug.
So you see what the Lord did to him?
Oh God, that was awful.
Oh, it was. You have no idea. Sorry, guys. White people have done horrible, awful things, okay? But
That they have not paid for and are not willing to pay for. All right?
so has every other group throughout the history of mankind. I mean, it is what it is, okay? So I just wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to talk about that. I definitely want your guys' take on it, okay? Because I'm so tired of the victimhood mentality of so many groups of people that they're the victim.
And see, that's cognitive dissonance, all right? Once again. Because he's going to mention how blacks sold blacks in a moment here. How Africans sold blacks to white people. And guess what? You're right. Because so-called black people are not African. They are a different race of people. And so these Africans were at war with them, all right? And they sold them to you Edomites.
Oh, the horrible white people did this. You know, and let's talk about, okay, so people are going to bring up the fact of slavery in the United States, okay? People are going to bring that up in this topic and how, you know, we went over to Africa and captured all these Africans and they were sold into the slave trade and all this and that, okay? We didn't go over to Africa with butterfly nets and start capturing people. That's not how it worked. Black people in Africa sold black people to white people.
And all right, and that's semi-true, but not totally. And that history is in the history books and it's in the Bible. So let's go to the Bible, the most reliable source of history. This is Joel, the 3rd chapter. All right. And I'm going to start at verse 3. And it says, and they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they may drink. You just watched the movie Goodbye, Uncle Tom. They were trading Hebrew slaves, okay, for musket guns and wine. That's what they were doing, okay? And it says, and yeah, what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Will you render me a recompense? All right? I'm going to jump down to verse, and Tyre and Zidon are Hamitic people, so-called Africans, by the way. Jumping down to verse 6. The children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. And this is true. That's where Jeremiah 50 and 33 comes into play, because they also went to the northern kingdom, to the Americas, and the slave trade actually begun with them. Then Africans, so-called Africans. All right? And guess what's going to happen as a result of that? All right, let me read verse 6 again. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them up out of the place whether you have sold them, and return your recompenses upon your own head. And it's starting with the vilifying of the so-called white man. His true history being revealed. That he's not white, that he's an Edomite. That he had red, pinkish flesh. For behold, the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. All right? There was a hairy goat's garment that was dyed red, and their skin color, that's what they look like. All right? And here's the end result. This is Manifest Destiny Part 2. Mr. Victor goes to spoils. It says, and I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they will sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for Yahweh have spoken it. So the Lord has spoken it, man. So you're right. Manifest Destiny had a Part 2, man. All right? And then, let's read a little bit of history, how your people came into power. This is First Maccabees 1 and 9. And it says, and it happened, 1 and 1, Salakia. And it reads, and it happened after Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persian Medes, and reigned in his stead, that means his race, the first over Greece. So they conquered those Japhetic people that the Persian Medes, not the Salakia. I just realized what I was saying. The Japhetic people who were living in that land. Okay, they conquered them. All right, they conquered those brown flesh people. Okay, because Persians are actually of Elam. All right, so Salakia for that confusion right there. All right, but they conquered those brown flesh people that were ruling over in that land at that time, man. And they drove Japhet out of all the place where they were, man. Okay. And then this is verse 9, and it says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. All right. Wait a minute. I'm starting at verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule, everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, and so did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. So those servants were his 4 generals. All right, Ptolemy, Cassander, Antiochus, and right now the other one's leaving me. I can't remember the name. But these were matter of fact, they're spoken of in the Bible, man. Okay, that's why all of a sudden you had white people in Egypt. You had you had the Ptolemies. You had the line of the Cleopatras. You know that whole thing. That's when they became rulers of the new known world, man. Starting with with Europe and the so-called Middle East, man. They took over those regions. All right, and then it was prophesied that they would go down in the Dark Ages, and they did in Malachi. All right, and then they came back into power. Roughly around 1492, they came fully back into power. And thus you have the so-called white man in rulership today. All right? So with that, I hope this was an edifying lesson. Call Halal Yahweh by Hashem Shai, by Hashem Rakah Kadash, and Abad Babal.